The sound, oh, the sound. It still echoes in my head, a primal lament that cuts through the air like a rusty scalpel. I should have turned back. I should have ignored the flickering glow of that crooked neon sign that advertised the Old Tavern. Cold beer, good stories. But the road was long, the night even longer, and the car's tank, almost emptied out the door, creaked in a drawn-out moan when I pushed it open, revealing a dark, dusty interior permeated with the sour smell of stale. Beer and something else, ... Something metallic and rancid. The place was empty, except for a hunched figure behind the dark wooden counter. The dim light of a hanging lamp barely illuminated the man's face, revealing features worn by time and a sparse beard that hid a prominent chin. "Good evening," I mumbled, feeling a shiver run down my spine. The man didn't answer immediately, only raised his heavy eyes and stared at me with a strange, almost hungry glint. "I just need some gas ... and maybe a coffee." He pointed to a dusty gallon in the corner. "There, if that's what you're looking for." His voice was hoarse, like gravel dragging on the floor . As I filled the gallon, an inexplicable cold began to envelop me. It wasn't the cold of the Vermont night, but a chill that seemed to come from within the walls. I looked around. Faded photos of hunters with their prey adorned the walls, their empty eyes watching me. There was also a stone fireplace, cold and unlit, but with ashes that seemed strangely fresh out. It was then I heard it. A howl. It wasn't a wolf's howl, nor a dog's. It was deeper, more guttural, coming from somewhere deep within the forest that surrounded the tavern. The sound seemed to vibrate in my chest, making my bones tremble. The old man behind the counter gave a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "The forest sings at night," he said, his voice more audible now, especially when the moon is full. "The ancient spirits ... they like to talk." I hurried to pay for the fuel, anxiety growing within me. The sound repeated, this time louder, closer, seemingly coming directly from behind the tavern. It had a hint of agony, of primal hunger. "What is that?" I asked, feeling my heart pound in my chest. The old man just laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "Oh, that's the Old Tavern calling. She has an appetite. And the night ... the night is long." I ran out of that place, the gallon of gasoline swinging in my hand. The howl followed me, seeming to chase every step I took to the car. As I shoved the hose into the tank, a dark, shapeless shadow moved at the periphery of my vision, coming from the dense darkness of the forest. I could feel the eyes of that place on me. I could feel the presence of something ancient and hungry lurking in the shadows. The car engine took a while to start, each turn of the key an eternity. Finally, it roared to life, and I floored the accelerator, leaving behind the Old Tavern and that Howl that I knew would never completely abandon me. Since that night, whenever the full moon shines in the sky and the silence of dawn sets in, I swear I can still hear, coming from somewhere distant, the howl of the Old Tavern. A chilling reminder that some roads should never be traveled and some doors should never be opened. What happened after the howl of the Old Tavern? The car flew down the dirt road, kicking up clouds of dust that obscured what had been left behind. My eyes were fixed on the rearview mirror, expecting to see a shadow, any sign that it was following me. Nothing. Just the darkness of the night swallowing the tavern and the macabre howl. I stopped at a gas station a good few miles later, my hands still shaking as I filled up. The attendant, a young man with a baseball cap turned backward, looked at me strangely when I paid. I must have looked like a ghost. I felt like one. I spent the night in a roadside motel, sleep coming in agitated flashes filled with nightmares. Every time I closed my eyes, the old man's face from the counter appeared, his hungry eyes, and the howl tore through the darkness. I knew it wasn't just a dream. That was real thought in the days that followed. I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was a wild animal, a coyote or a bear. Maybe the darkness and my exhaustion had distorted the sounds. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. That sound carried a weight, an intention that went beyond any natural creature. I started researching. Internet, public libraries in the towns I passed through. I searched for old news, local legends, anything about an Old Tavern or strange occurrences in Vermont. And to my horror, I started to find them. Small mentions in old newspapers from forgotten counties. Disappearances. People who stopped on certain rural roads and were never seen again. Stories of travelers who swore they heard the forest sing, or the lament of the stones. No one connected the dots, but I did. All the locations were within dozens of miles of that tavern. One night, as I read an old tome on New England folklore, I came across a legend about an ancient forest spirit, a being hungry for lost souls, that manifested where the land was oldest and the veil between worlds thinnest. It fed on despair and fear, and its howl was the final invitation. The most chilling part was that this spirit didn't need grand rituals or sacrifices to appear. It manifested when someone felt lost, isolated, and sought refuge. A roadside tavern in the middle of nowhere would be the perfect place to attract victims. Since then, I avoid secondary roads, especially at night. The mere glimpse of an isolated bar or a solitary light in the middle of the countryside makes me look away and step on the accelerator. The sound of the wind howling on certain nights gives me chills. I know that wasn't left behind. The howl of the Old Tavern has become part of me, an invisible scar, a constant reminder that there are horrors waiting in the shadows for those who dare to stop where they shouldn't. And sometimes, on full moon nights, when the city sleeps and the world seems silent, I swear I can still hear, distant but unmistakable, the sound of that lament, calling me in the years following that fateful night. Paranoia became my constant shadow. Every sound at dawn, every shadow dancing on the curtains, made me relive the dread of the Old Tavern. I isolated myself, abandoning the career that made me travel and taking refuge in a remote job that allowed me to stay in my small town, far from lonely roads and dark woods. The research into legends and disappearances became an obsession. I collected old maps, cross-referenced data from century-old newspapers, looking for patterns, connections. I wanted to unravel the mystery of that creature, that howl, so I could be free. I discovered that the being did not attack out of pure malice, but out of a kind of hunger. A hunger for connection. It fed on loneliness, on the desperation for something to hold on to, and the tavern was its perfect bait. One night, as I scribbled on a map, connecting points of disappearances that always happened on full moon nights, a shiver ran through me. One of the points was dangerously close to my own house. Impossible. I lived in a city, not an isolated wilderness. I rechecked the data, verified the dates, the names, and then I realized it wasn't the physical location that mattered. It was the state of mind. All the victims, myself included, were at a point in their lives where they felt deeply alone, disconnected, searching for something, a place, a conversation, a refuge. The tavern was just a symbol. The bait wasn't the place, but the promise of companionship in an isolated world. The howl was not an attacking cry, but a call to join that thing, to fill the void with one's own presence. And I, that night, was desperately lonely, looking for any place to escape the road and my own mind. On that same night, the full moon rose, large and bright, flooding my room with its silvery light. I closed my eyes, but not to sleep. I opened them again and went to the window. The silence was deep, almost oppressive. And then I heard it, not distant and terrifying as before, but soft, almost melodic, coming from the back of my own yard. Got it? Was the howl. But this time, it sounded more like a lament, a plea. I was no longer afraid. I was exhausted from running, exhausted from hiding. The being didn't want to hurt me. It wanted to absorb me. And for a terrifying moment, the idea didn't. Seemed so bad. The end of loneliness, peace. I took a deep breath and for the first time in years, opened the back door. The cold night air hit me. I walked across the lawn, towards the darkness where the sound seemed to emanate. With each step, the howl became clearer, more inviting. I felt a presence, vast and ancient, approaching. It wasn't a monster. It wasn't a demon. It was something ... incomplete, something seeking completeness. The moment my fingers were about to make contact with the densest shadow, an indistinct but palpable form, a strong light cut through the night. It was my brother's car headlights. He had promised to visit me and forgotten to say the exact time. He honked happily. The howl stopped abruptly. The shadow dissolved into the air. Faster than the light could reach it, my brother got out of the car, radiant. "Hey, man. Everything good here? I thought you were sleeping." I just smiled, a faint smile, feeling cold sweat on my forehead. "Everything's great, Pedro. I just got some air." He looked at me with a raised eyebrow. "Air? You're pale as a ghost. Come in. Let's talk." As I entered, I could feel it, the emptiness. That emptiness that had accompanied me for so long, that the creature had tried to fill, now seemed to have been sucked out of my soul. Pedro's presence, his simple and warm presence, had been enough. The howl, after all, was the call of loneliness. And the solution, I realized, was never in running from the creature, but in running from loneliness. Since then, the howl has never returned. I still hear it in my mind, but it's a distant memory, not an imminent threat. And now, when the full moon shines and silence sets in, I no longer look for dusty legends. I seek companionship, connection with those I love, because I understood that the true terror was not in the creature of the forest, but in the darkness we cultivate in our own hearts when we isolate ourselves from the world. And the only way to silence the howl is to find our own light.